What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Mindset Podcast. Today, we are joined by Javi Borges, and I got some intel that he is a big FSU fan. And in true fashion, I had to come out with a Florida shirt to rub it in a little extra. And of course, he's wearing, if you're watching us on YouTube, what is it? Garnet, burgundy? I don't know.
No, it's garnet, son, and you know that.
Yeah, some color there that we don't like too much. So. But anyway, Javi, we're so happy to have you. You're also a St. Brendan alum, as am I. So it's always
Proudly.
good to have fellow Sabres on the podcast, and we're just happy to be with you and happy that you're able to share your wisdom, your experience with us. We didn't see you too long ago. It was at the Miami Tech Summit last time we saw you, which we'll get into now in a second. But welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you guys. Look, I've been a fan of the podcast for a while, ever since you had my buddy Pepe on, and I love what you guys do. I love your positive energy. I think this is a great forum to have the right kind of discussions that I think would be helpful for folks like you, right, that are coming out of college or thinking about where to go to school or what to do, what's next in their career. And I just love it. I think it's a great opportunity to kind of talk to the future generation of leaders that we have coming up.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we appreciate that, and we're happy to have you on board. And to start us off with our warm-up questions, we're really excited about this first one. We kind of brought this first question back from the grave of warm-up questions, if you will. We haven't asked it in a long time, but we thought you'd be the perfect person to answer this for us. And that is, if you had to live on a secluded island for the rest of your life, and you can only bring 3 things with you, what items would you choose to bring with you?
And these are items, not people, correct?
These are items, not people.
All right. Well, number one, I'm a big music fan. Like my entire life, I've played music. I'm still an avid concert goer and still play music whenever I can with some of my friends. So I think one thing that would help me kind of keep my sanity is if I brought like an acoustic guitar with me. I think the second thing, if I'm on a secluded island, would be some sort of survival kit that would facilitate my life on a secluded island, right? Because I mean, if I can only take 3 things, and that means I can't bring enough food to survive for however long I'm going to be there. So I'm going to need some sort of survival kit with the essentials. And then, something that I could probably, I mean, obviously we would all say our phones because it's got so many things in one, right? And so it'd probably be something that I could listen to music on, or, I guess I would run out of power there. So now you can see the way my mind works. I'm thinking through the essentials. I think after that, it would probably be, some sort of, I keep thinking survival. So probably, something to complement my survival kit to live on this deserted island that I'm on by myself. So it's a really good question. I hadn't thought of it like that. I watch a lot of zombie apocalypse shows, so I'm in that mode, right? So I think I'm better prepared for the zombie apocalypse, like The Last of Us or The Walking Dead, than I am to live on a secluded island.
Yeah, I'm such a nerd when it comes to like those types of like movies and shows on Netflix of people just like landing on a plane in the middle of nowhere. And it's funny, we always get some really weird answers for this question. And I think someone said toilet paper once, which I think is not a bad answer, honestly, thinking about it. And someone said deodorant as well. I think, having a survival kit all in one, I think is definitely the way to go. But no matter what, if you're on a secluded island, I feel like any of those things will eventually run out if you don't kind of learn how to survive. But anyway, that's our first question of our little lightning round here. On to our second one.
Sure.
This is always an interesting one, and I've always loved asking this to our guests. What is something people don't know about you? Maybe something that only your family knows or someone close to you knows, but what is something that people don't really know about you?
Well, I think, in a professional setting, the folks that I meet are surprised at my interest in music and the arts. And I think, what I find is it's absolutely complementary of what we do at EY and for our clients. To me, it it's something that's been part of my life really since I can remember. I mean, my mom used to play, all sorts of records and things like that. I remember, one of the first albums that I would pick out was like Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons, some random, they were big in the 60s, but it was like super random. I don't listen to that now necessarily, but it something there it triggered something in me that remains to this day. And so I think when people find out, especially professionally with what I do, that not only do I play musical instruments, but I go out of my way, I'll travel for concerts. I will go, and I'm like the pre-sale king, right? I'm on every list, and I've literally had meetings. And it's something I learned long ago from some of my mentors is that, we can work hard, but you can always make time for what refills your energy, right? And your soul, right? You have to feed your soul. And I think that even within meetings, I'll ask for 5 to 10 minutes. I've actually done this where we've had an hour long or a 2-hour team session, and I'll say, hey guys, at a little bit before 10 o'clock, I need 5 minutes. And it's because I'm going on Ticketmaster because I have the pre-sale to a concert. I'm securing the tickets. And so I think people are a little surprised when they hear that I'm that passionate about music and that passionate about playing. And to me, it just opens up a big part of who I am, a creative channel. It's an outlet. I also feel that way about sports and travel. And my wife loves all those things, some more than others, but loves all those things to attend with me. I think she draws the line at seeing New Order for a 5th time, but she'll go to the first couple of shows with me, or she loves to travel to games and things like that. So I think people sometimes are a little surprised to find that out about me.
That's really interesting. I'll tell you, I definitely didn't catch you for a music guy myself either. But I think that's so important, right? Especially in the line of work that you're in. Long days, long nights, traveling. I feel like it's important for anybody really to have that kind of creative outlet, right? But I do want to ask you, who is or what was your favorite concert that you've been to? You said that you've been to quite a few, so.
Yeah, so I mean, I have seen some amazing shows. I think if I had to pick one, and it's kind of a cheat, is in 2006, I went with 2 buddies to Madrid to a 2-day festival called Summer Case, where we saw everybody from Daft Punk to Sigur Rós to the Chemical Brothers to the Happy Mondays to New Order to Massive Attack. I mean, all these bands that it was just the perfect vibe in essentially what is a desert area outside of Madrid. And it was a really well-run festival, and it went from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. And seeing Daft Punk at 2:30 in the morning back, I mean, especially now looking back, was incredible. I've also had the opportunity to see, I mean, I love playing guitar. So I love, I've seen Eric Clapton, I've seen Jimmy Page and Robert Plant. Just some of these bands that even though they were before my time, I grew up listening to, trying to emulate, et cetera. And in September, I'll see Guns N' Roses for about the 5th time here in the Hard Rock Casino Theater. And we have 4, so it'll be about 4th or 5th row, which is great. I mean, to me, it's just, it's I really enjoy the experience. And what I've realized, I was just watching a rerun on 60 Minutes with Rick Rubin, who is one of my heroes that I look up to just because of the way he approaches things. If you don't know Rick Rubin, he founded Def Jam Records with Russell Simmons at NYU, and Def Jam basically signed everyone, right? I mean, it was such a foundational aspect of hip hop, whether it was LL Cool J or Public Enemy or the Beastie Boys. It's funny, Adam Horowitz actually interned for him out of his dorm room and discovered the cassette that LL Cool J was on. But when you listen to what Rick Rubin, he just came out with a book about the creative process. And when I hear him on podcasts like this, which by the way, he'd be a great get if you guys could get him, just you learn so much that's applicable to what you do day to day, whether it's your profession, raising kids, being a good person, and the way that you just approach life. And I think that sometimes we go too narrow, too quick. And I think having other interests like music or podcasts or different things like that, or traveling, opens you up to other things, which then broadens your perspective and enables you to think differently and come up with better ideas for your clients or society or the community, et cetera.
Mhm. Well, Javi, I'll tell you this. I have a theory. I think I'm going to go on a stretch here and share with you a conspiracy theory that I think is happening right now. So I think you working with EY is a decoy, but really what you do is you are the lead singer of your own band, and you have like a band, a mysterious band that just goes around. It's you, Pepe, and a couple other guys in this band, and that's what you do for a living. Is that right? Am I right on that?
No, well, no, you're not. I don't know that Pepe has much musical ability. Number one, I mean, have you seen the guy dance? No, I'm kidding. I'm sure he has plenty of musical ability. No, but I will tell you that I did have a band in high school, and in the last few years, we've started to get together and reconnect and play again. And actually, Monday on Memorial Day, we were at a friend's house, I guess you could say, in the studio, and we've written a song for the first time in almost 30 years. And it kind of happened. You got to love technology. I was on a plane Christmas Eve flying back from Los Angeles with my family. And one of my buddies, I'm on the Wi-Fi on a plane, which is still mind blowing to me. And one of my buddies sends me an audio file of something that he wrote. And he said, I always thought this would sound like a song that we would have written back in high school, early college. And so I listened to it a few times. I start writing lyrics. He sends me the chords. A couple months later, I restructured the song on my acoustic guitar, and now we just started recording it. And again, it's what I love about it is it's a gift that never leaves you. It's something that, that continues to, just like I said, fill your soul and it makes you better at other things. I'm convinced that continuing to follow your passions makes you a better professional, makes you a better, friend, husband, son, brother, father, et cetera, because it allows you to regenerate what makes you you. Now, so I do appreciate, Anthony, the kindness in that your conspiracy theory was that I was in a band. Most of my friends think I work for the CIA or something because they kind of don't understand what it is I do.
So I wasn't too far off. So I was in the neighborhood. I was in the ballpark. And speaking of about what you do and people quite not understanding it all the time, let's talk about that. So tell us a little bit about what you do and about yourself. I know you wear a lot of different hats. Knowing you, Javi, the most important one you'd probably say that you wear is being a father to your kids. But you also do a lot of great work with EY, a lot of great work in the community. So why don't you share with us, for those who may not have gotten to meet you yet, what is it exactly that you do?
Sure. No, I appreciate it. And you're absolutely right. I mean, my wife, Lauren, and my kids, Beckham and Emerson, are, a super important part of my life, as is my dog, Dodger. He's awesome as well. But, and he just heard me and now is walking in here. So I am the Miami, as you said in your intro, the Miami office managing partner for EY. Traditionally, we were known as Ernst & Young, one of the big four accounting consulting firms. Essentially, what EY does, we have over 350,000 people around the world, 700 offices. We're like in 150 countries. It grows. The number grows every day. Here in the Miami office, we have what I believe to be the best office in the firm. We have over 600 people. When I assumed this role 2 years ago, we were at around 420. So it just shows you the constant growth of what's happening in Miami, with folks relocating, businesses relocating, and that has caused us to expand as well. We also have a Boca Raton office, so our South Florida presence is quite vast. I think it's around a little over 1,000 people in South Florida, which is great. So one of my first hats, as you put it, is leading that office, right? And what we do is everything from assurance, which is our audit practice, forensics, financial accounting advisory work. We have a leading tax practice, the top brand and tax advisory firm in the world, year in, year out, which we can either help in tax planning or tax compliance and reporting, essentially. We do a lot of HR consulting, IT consulting, management consulting, risk consulting. and then strategy and transactions. So everything from corporate strategy to looking, when companies look to buy, acquire other companies, or sell, spin out a piece of their existing company. But in the end, the best way that I can describe it is we're problem solvers. We're puzzle solvers, right? I mean, what I love about my job is, my day-to-day role is I am what we call a global client service partner. So I'm the lead partner in charge for 3 amazing companies: Royal Caribbean, Restaurant Brands International, and Ryder Systems. And what I love about that role is I never know what issue is going to arise with my clients, and chances are there's somebody in the firm that has tremendous experience, helping clients solve that issue. And so it's a learning process every day, which I love. I have become a bit addicted to learning and the new experiences and the challenges. The other thing that I love is we are a big people culture. I mean, we don't make widgets, we don't make products, we serve clients. We're in professional services. So our biggest asset is our intellectual capital and our people. And our people are amazing. We go out and recruit aggressively at different universities, and also in our clients and from other firms to try to attract and retain the best people. But what I love about our culture is it's not, I got to have sharp elbows, bump you out of the way, step on you to get ahead. It's really an all ships rise with the tide type culture where we go further together. And you get really, I go back to being addicted to learning. I'm also addicted to working in that teaming culture with really good people, with really bright people, that bring so many different things to the table. I'm really proud. I've been here for 24 years, which every time I say it is insane to me because I'm 47. So I've tipped the scale. I've been working at EY more than half my life, but my career journey's been everywhere, from starting in New York in healthcare consulting, coming to Miami, opening a Tallahassee office, building our government and public sector practice, going back to New York, making partner in our tax practice, and then coming here to lead these big accounts, and then eventually being asked to serve as the office managing partner, a role that 2 of my mentors, Don Zarro and Oscar Suarez, had, is incredible. It's very humbling. And the day that they called me, and, number one, the day that you make partners very special. But when they called me and said that, I was going to be the office managing partner, it was very humbling. And as I was a little emotional because my mentors, one of them, unfortunately, and Don Zarro, passed away 10 years ago. But I did feel at that moment and a sense of emotion and legacy. And then I then flipped to it. I said, wait a minute, when did they put the kids in charge? I'm too young for this, right? But then you realize that, no, you are ready for this and you're not a kid anymore. So that's a little bit about what I do kind of day to day. And, if you want me to touch on the community stuff that I do, I'd be happy to.
I think that's so good, Javi. I did want to touch on just for a second. I liked how you mentioned that you were addicted to learning, right? And I feel like that's a really important lesson, really, for us, for young people to hang on to, because I feel like a lot of buddies of ours, a lot of friends, a lot of classmates, they're getting into positions that they're comfortable, right? They're getting into positions that they interviewed for, they've been there for a few months, maybe even a few years at this point, and they're kind of coasting, right? And maybe they're learning a little bit along the way, but I can't imagine it's anything like an environment like EY where there's constant problems coming that you guys are just solving them. And I also wanted to touch on the fact that you've been with EY for 24 years, which I feel like is really cool because you obviously didn't start off as managing partner. So my question is, how did that mindset of, being addicted to learning and always wanting to face that next challenge help you in your career, but also help you in kind of riding and climbing the ladder at EY and starting off in the first position to now where you're at as managing partner?
Sure. So I'm going to answer this question with 2 things that if I were talking to my 22-year-old self, that I would say. The one is, and I think is very applicable and I I don't really view things as your generation, my generation, but I think for you, both of you, and your friends that are coming out of school today, I see a sense of urgency to constantly change roles. And so there's two sides to the coin. On the one side, you got to ask yourself, it's almost like you're a pitcher in baseball and you're getting on the mound. What is your fastball, right? Like what skill are you developing that you're going to put, as Malcolm Gladwell put in his book Outliers, which is a great book, what skill are you going to develop, over the 10,000 hours, right? The proverbial 10,000 hours that it takes to get good at something. That's your fastball. Then what are the other skill sets? What's the curveball? What's the change? What's the slider that you're going to develop that's good as you continue to grow? That's on one side of the coin. On the other side of the coin, if I could put a billboard in front of, both of you and or everyone that is leaving high school, as Anthony mentioned, I'm very involved in my alma mater, St. Brendan High School, proud Sabre. I get to speak to students sometimes, also with Florida State. I'm on the alumni board there because I'm a big believer. I got this from my parents. Huge believer that education can change a person and a family's trajectory. I'm a big believer in that, and I think the access should be, completely open for everyone. But if there's something that I could put on a billboard every day when you wake up, is don't settle. Don't settle in anything that you do, in anyone that you're with or have a relationship with. At the end of the day, only the person looking back at you in the mirror is going to hold you accountable and is going to ultimately care about where you're going. It's all about that person in the mirror. And if you're not the person saying yes, there's a million reasons out there every day when you walk out your door to say no. But if you're not that one person with that positive energy, with that, yes, I'm going to go do it. Yes, I can do it. And you end up settling, whether it's professionally or personally, one day you're going to wake up and you're going to say, wait a minute, how come I'm not there? How come I'm not, and I kind of feel it's almost like, dude, you're 22. It's not time to settle. And also it's not, while I do think that it's important to develop fastballs, don't feel you got to figure out what kind of pitcher you're going to be when you're 22. Like I like to tell people from a mindset perspective, I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do when I grow up. Right. It's that constant, what's next. It's a little morbid, but I said this once to students and I think it kind of, maybe freaked them out a little bit, but the day I die, I want one of my last thoughts to be, damn, I was so curious to know what happens next. Right. Or what's going to come next, or I'm not going to see that, that's coming next. It's that eagerness that you have to go out and really grab life by the horns and try to, like Thoreau said, suck the marrow out of life, right? Like go out and get it. And I feel that sometimes what disappoints me, and again, everyone charts their own path. I think everyone defines happiness differently, and I know that everyone's wired differently, so I always respect it. But as long as you feel you're not settling, then a salute, go do it.
Now, Javi,
that's a big one that I would put out there.
Yeah, no, excellent advice. And to that point, I have a question because I get a little bit confused, right? Because sometimes people tell me, and young people too, I hear it all the time, like, try everything, do everything, any opportunity that comes your way, just say yes, just go in the pool and just figure out how to swim. You'll do it later. You just figure it out. Just go and take any opportunity that comes your way. But then there's other people that are like, be jealous of your time, be a little bit strategic or picky of what it is that you do, because every opportunity that comes your way might not make sense for you. So be comfortable with saying no, right? There's like people like Gary Vee that are like, say no to things that don't make sense to you, but also at the same time, there's other people saying, just try everything. Where do you stand on that line of, should young people just take anything that comes their way, or should we be a little bit picky about things being young?
Yeah. And this goes back to Gabriel's question of my career, right? So for a long time, I thought, well, there was a while where I I wanted to go into medicine. Then there was a while that I wanted to go into music. Then there was a while that I wanted to go into law. And,
Yeah.
you know, when I was unsure, what I got comfortable with is not having all the answers. And the approach that I took was, what is the next step? So I have friends that wanted to be doctors or wanted to be lawyers, or, you know, they, from the moment they were in high school, you knew what they were going to do.
Right.
But I wasn't necessarily one of those people, right? So the philosophy or the approach that I took is, you know, if you don't know exactly what you're going to do, what is the one step that you can take in a direction that will open more doors than close them? So instead of becoming more niche focused,
Right.
what is the next step that you can take that will expand your horizons and span? So, Anthony, I don't agree with say yes to everything.
Okay.
I would say yes to what intrigues you. Be curious and be bold. And I wouldn't say waste your time. You can be selective, but I think you know, and I keep going back. I mean, I don't know your exact ages, but I'm just going to throw out 22, you know, because I know you just finished school, right? So at 22, you have a little more forgiveness in your time than you will at necessarily at 32 or at 42, right?
Right.
Depending on your life choices, depending on, you know, for career, family, your commitments, etc. And so I think you're at a stage now where it's fun. Be bold. If you don't know exactly what you want to do, what you want to be, then just take a step in a new direction and see what comes of it. Right. That's you know, when I graduated from Florida State, I took a year to between FSU and law school, and in that year, when I moved back home, a buddy of mine was running a friend's campaign. Funny, all Sabres, was running a friend's campaign for state rep. And I had a little bit of political experience. Before I went to FSU, I went to Miami-Dade, and I had a little bit of political experience. So we ran, you know, I said, yeah, sure, I'll jump in and run help you run the campaign. I mean, obviously you never get paid or paid well in campaign work, but you meet a lot of people, and it opened a lot of doors. And then the day after the primary, unfortunately we had lost close, but we had lost. And it was a fun experience. I got a call to jump on a state Senate campaign. Well, when that happened, we had lost very close, right? That one too. And there was a little bit of controversy with the vote count. I won't get into the details, but it was Bush Gore before there was Bush Gore. It was 1998. Happy to tell you that story another day, because it taught me a number of things, including I think I was a little burnt on the political thing. But all the while, a person that I had met at EY was watching what I was doing. And the day after the campaign, called me up, and I wanted to, you know, I saw him as a mentor. I knew his son at FSU. I knew some of their friends, and I had met him at a tailgate. His name was Don Zaro. And I said, hey, I'd love to take you to lunch and just pick your brain on, you know, what's next. And that started a series of conversations where all of a sudden I realized I was being recruited to go to EY. And what he told me was, I need a campaign manager. I need a project manager. And he was like, if you could handle, you know, Miami politics and manage campaigns, you can handle project management and what I need you to do up in New York. And so, you know, again, did I leave FSU going, I'm going to go work at EY? No. I just opened myself up to intentional experiences that led me to that path. And so I think the trick and the balance there is just being intentional, right? But also being open to what you want to do.
Right. Isn't it so crazy how one thing leads to another? Like if you didn't work those campaigns, you might not be at it's insane. And playing that game can be a little bit fun sometimes to say, man, if I would have done this differently, what would my life look like right now? But, you know, one of the things that impressed us, me and Gabe, about you, Javi, is when we met you for the first time in person at the Miami Tech Summit. It was funny because we were all talking, and then more people started joining the conversation to the point that we noticed you're a Sabre, and we were surrounded by Sabres in a little circle, just chopping it up. And Gabe and I, after the conference, we went back and we're like, wow, like Javi really surrounds himself with good quality people, like some of the best, brightest minds out there in Miami-Dade County and beyond. So talk to us about that importance, Javi. Like, how important is it to surround yourself with the right people, and how has that impacted your career or even your personal life?
Yeah, so I'm going to answer this. I saw this question in the prep, and I thought I'm going to answer this. In maybe a funny way here is there's an old, I guess, Cuban or Latin saying that I absolutely despise. Dime con quién tú andas y te digo quién eres, right? Tell me who you hang with and I'll tell you who you are. The reason I don't like it is because usually it is said in a very judgmental manner. And it implants or institutes judgment in young children, right? That, well, if a person is not cut from the same cloth as you or doesn't view the world the same way as you do, you shouldn't be hanging out with them, right? And instead, I do think that when we're younger, we should actually be teaching the opposite. It should be, uh, be friends, be open, be trusting, right? And if somebody defies that, then you learn the lesson that they're not worth your friendship, right? But you learn, like, I have friends on all ends of the spectrum, right? I have friends who are CEOs of major corporations here in Miami. I have friends who are politicians and now successful lobbyists like Pepe. And then I have friends who, barely got out of high school and are very creative or doing amazing things with their life that I think had you listened to that saying, you would have maybe cut those people off. Instead, what I've learned is surround yourself with people. It doesn't matter what they do, where they come from, etc. It's in the way that they approach life. Are they people that bring genuine positive energy to the room? Or are they, like in one of my favorite shows on FX, What We Do in the Shadows, are they energy vampires, right? Are they the kinds that just suck the energy out? I'm a big believer that you're one of two types of people. You're either somebody that infuses energy into a situation, or you take it. And I think there are certain people that we learn that no matter what they do, who they are, family they come from, their wealth or their success, they may not be the best people to hang out with because they don't make you feel good, or they don't lift you up, or they don't say, hey, let me extend a hand and help you, and instead they feel that putting you down or stepping on you, etc. So I think that being comfortable in your own skin, being genuine, do good things. I've always had this philosophy: you do good things for good people, and a lot takes care of itself. It doesn't have to be, beneficial financially. It doesn't have to benefit you professionally or personally. Just do good things for good people, and you'll be surprised at how it comes around. It's almost like a golden rule lesson, right? But that's a philosophy that, number one, it's the right thing to do. We're immensely blessed in this world that at 9:15 in the morning we're doing a podcast. I mean, do you know what percentage of the world right now is wondering what they're going to eat, how they're going to earn, how they're going to support their families? I mean, that in and of itself, and just hearing people that, when I grew up, I just not only the example of my family, my parents, my friends' parents who were like family to me, but just seeing people that would say, you have a responsibility to give back. And to me, making an impact and doing that, whether it's at a large scale with being on a board and community organizations, et cetera, or just making an impact on one person. And I think you'll be surprised how rich your life gets in the right way when you focus on that.
Yeah, Javi, I think that's so good, and I want to touch on a few things. But before I get to that, I was thinking about this when you were talking, and yesterday I was asked to go to a career day and talk to some of the younger elementary students about what it is that I do, which for me, is super humbling to even think that someone would think what I do is cool enough to talk to young students about. Just thinking about when I was in third grade, fourth grade, listening to all these professionals come talk about what it is that they do. It was a very humbling experience, but I was thinking back because one of the students asked me, like, great question. It's crazy to see the minds of young people, right? And the curiosity that they have. And they're like, how many collaborations have you had in your career? Right. And I'm like, wow, that's a really interesting question, because pretty much everything I do in the media, and film space is collaboration, right?
Right.
To our teams, to our clients, everything is a collaboration. And I think, to your point, surrounding yourself with the people that challenge you, at least for me, is something that I always continue to do and I strive to do every single day. And like I mentioned, like you mentioned, I have friends from really all different types of spectrums. Because of this podcast, I have friends in politics, I have friends in media, I have friends, that are working, 9 to 5 jobs. I have friends really in all types of industries, which I think is honestly a blessing in disguise, because maybe, my friend that's a firefighter might not benefit me in any way career wise, but he has such a different insight and different perspective when it comes to life, right? When it comes to hardship, when it comes to maybe raising kids one day. And I told the student, I'm like, honestly, I can't really think of a number that it comes to mind when, in a quantifiable way of how many collaborations, but I can tell you that it happens every single day, right? Whether it's, at the dinner table with my family, just talking about an idea, whether it's talking to our director, our producer about what we want to do, and they come with ideas, or if it's a client that wants to come back and have some ideas on something. But it's really interesting because I feel like, again, to Anthony's point, or even to the quote that you mentioned, a lot of people growing up might tell you, surround yourself with the people that you want to be around, or the right people that'll help you, succeed, which is still viable. But at the same time, when you have more people around you from different industries, from different walks of life, I think it's so important, because you learn so much more, almost so much faster as well. And I want to ask you too, because, something that Anthony and I were talking after Miami Tech Summit, I'm like, man, yeah, all these Sabres, and, Javi has all these friends and they're all very successful, but they all went to high school together. Like, that's so crazy to me, because I might have, a few really close friends from high school, if that. And I know a lot of my friends might not even talk to people from high school. And I'm like, how does this guy, not only is his circle of friends so successful, so humble, but they also know how to have a good time together. I know you guys were talking about, going to watch the Heat game and smoke some cigars or something like that. Like, what camaraderie, like how important is that camaraderie, and what advice might you have for young people to continue to foster that camaraderie with their classmates, with their friends, as they grow up and as they conquer this life?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, first off, that's it's amazing that you went and spoke to an elementary school. I think that is so impactful. Sometimes teachers get frustrated, like parents do, where the students may not, kind of like your kids, may not listen to you, but they'll listen to somebody else. So I do think,
Yeah.
that old adage of how it takes a village and all that, I think that's what they mean, right? It's all of us supporting each other in the right way and what we're trying to get accomplished in life, not just professionally, but personally. So kudos to you for doing that. The collaboration point is an important one. I mean, everything we do in business and everything we do in my business is collaborating. There is not a single project that we go at alone. It is about bringing, the unique perspective that a groupthink in our environment can bring to our clients. We always say when we're recruiting people, everybody's going to ask, what does EY look for? Is it just, degrees in accounting? Is it, a certain GPA? Well, that helps, but give me the person that has a 3.5, that has, had various experiences in their college career. There's, one young woman that we hired that comes to mind, first in her family to go to college, when I was interviewing her, she talked about that. She talked about everything she does on campus, started a charity, and, oh, by the way, works at Publix. And when she would come down to help her, I think her father at the time had cancer, she, Publix would let her work here. So when I asked her, how do you like working for Publix? She said, well, it's great because I work with them in Tallahassee. And then when I come to Miami to kind of be with my parents, take care of my dad, they let me pick up shifts here. I couldn't offer her a job fast enough. Why? Because, it's not just the education you get in the books. It's the experiences from collaborating with others and having those life experiences that makes her so unique. And in a meeting, maybe not tomorrow, but years from now, that unique experience and the fact that we foster an environment that welcomes diversity and inclusivity to make her feel comfortable to be who she is going to result in her asking a question that nobody else thinks of years down the line. That's going to be a game changer for one of our clients. And so, that at a professional level, to me, is the importance of collaboration and setting up an environment that fosters that. On the personal level, I'll tell you, one of my friends paid me just a heartwarming compliment the other day. Over the weekend, my wife and I went to see Bert Kreischer's new movie, The Machine. I went to FSU with him. We weren't good friends, but or anything. I've met him. We were FSU same year. I'm a big fan. I love his podcast, etc. And I just invited my friends. Hey, Lauren and I are going to be at this theater at this time on Saturday. If you want to come watch. And one of my buddies said, Javi, you're always thinking of ways to bring us together. You're truly the connector, and I don't say it enough. I'm really grateful for you. Which, you go from a mindset, since it's the mindset podcast, you go from a mindset of I'm going to go party with Bert, and see The Machine, right? To one of your buddies being so generous to just say thank you. And to me, that's what really, energizes me is being around people and being around good people. And, we plan not only trips with the family, but my wife and I plan trips with friends. Sometimes it's together. Sometimes it's, girls trip, guys trip, because I think it's important for you to continue those relationships. It's funny. Years ago, a buddy of mine asked me when we were getting together, he's like, is this with wives and girlfriends, or this is before we had kids, or is it just guys? And I said, no, it's a cosa de hombre. And that stuck. And so in my personal friends, we have cosa de hombre, and our wives have cosa de mujeres or cosa de madres. And then we have cosa de familia, right? So think of men, think of women, think of family. And it's almost like a funny thing, but we have our WhatsApp chats are called that, et cetera. And it's a constant interaction on WhatsApp. It's when are we planning the next CDH, which means, is just the guys hang out, or, hey, can we get now that we all have kids and they're all the same age, it's a pool day or at somebody's house, or just getting them together. And I just think that it's so important to continue to foster your friendships and your passions, because at the end of the day, people that lift you up, it gives you even more confidence to be who you are. And I think genuine leadership and just being genuine, being who you are is so important in your life. Be true to yourself. One of my teachers at St. Brendan first introduced us to the concept of meditation, introduced us to the Transcendentalist. She was an English teacher that we had years ago. I don't think she was there anymore when you were there, Anthony, which is a shame, but she was awesome. Right. And I remember that she, would always encourage, you to invest in yourself, right, in those ways. And I think that she had this saying about there are many paths, but one truth. And she wrote it in a book that she gave me when I graduated. And being true to yourself and what you want to do and where you want your life, how you want your life to be. And you'll see that if you continue to do that, one day you're going to realize I can kind of make this a little bit of what I want. There might be things that I need to do that I don't love every day, but for the most part, I'm pretty happy. I like what I'm doing. I like who I'm hanging with. And every day I'm like, man, what are we going to do next? Like, the opportunity to be here with you guys is fantastic. I'm honored and I really appreciate it. But I love what you guys do. You're positive. I mean, I didn't know you before we met at the Tech Summit, but I knew what you guys were putting out there, right? And so I applaud you for, having the gumption and the guts to say, you know what, we're going to put something positive out there. We're 22. We may not have it all figured out, but we're going to talk about the mindset that we're taking to go in that direction, and ask others, hey, what got you to where you are? What makes you happy? Yeah. What makes you tick? And it's fantastic.
Yeah, and I think Javi, you're without really intending it, your brand to be this way. I can tell you, I've talked to a lot of people. I was at St. Brendan not too long ago. Met up with Yvette Alvarez, Mr. Ramos, vice principal and principal at St. Brendan, and I told them I was having you on. They're like, "Oh, we love Javi. Javi's great." Javi, it's when we have conversations about you with other people, there's nothing but good stuff to talk about you, and I think that just goes to show the kind of mindset that you have of, like you said earlier, just being kind, just being positive, and great stuff will come your way if you have that kind of mindset. And to kind of wrap a bow around this episode, and you've given us so much wisdom and advice so far, and Gabe and I are always fascinated by this question of what does success mean to you? Because we find that every time we ask this question, it's a completely different answer for every single one of our very successful guests. So, Javi, what would you say is your definition of success? And I guess, how has that changed over the course of many, many years? Because we've also noticed that a lot of our guests come on and they talk about what success meant to them, 10 years ago. 10 years ago is not the same as it is today. So what does success mean to you?
Well, it's a great question. And I think my favorite quote, I'm a big Dodgers fan in baseball, and I've read a lot about the Brooklyn Dodgers as well as the Los Angeles Dodgers. My favorite quote comes from Jackie Robinson, and it's he has it actually on his tombstone. A life is not important except in the impact it has on other lives. And I learned that as a kid from my family. I definitely learned it at St. Brendan. I learned it at Florida State, and I learned it. I continue to learn it every day at EY and in my personal life. So to me, a successful life is one that makes an impact. Ralph Waldo Emerson, who in part we kind of named our daughter Emerson after, has a great quote about, did you leave this world a better place, either with a child or a garden, and I really do feel that when this all wraps up, when we put a bow on our lives, right, that it's we'll be remembered for making an impact, and that truly is the measure, I think, of a successful life. Is, did you make an impact, no matter how big or small? Did you make an impact in a person? Did you make an impact on a classroom? Did you make an impact on somebody that's listening to the podcast? And frankly, when I think about how I'm going to spend my day, what I agree to, that's usually a lens that I put on it. And sure, there are things that we do every day that maybe aren't as impactful, but you try to be as intentional and impactful as possible, and just leave the world a better place.
Yeah, I think to piggyback off that, Javi, when Anthony and I started this podcast a little over 3 years now, we said, look, we're having these conversations selfishly almost for us, right? And if 2 people listen to it or 200 people listen to it, that's enough for us, because even if, and humbly, we've gotten so many messages and DMs and different things saying, man, that episode with this person was so impactful, like that really changed my attitude this week. And those are really, that's the reason, right? That's the why that we always go back to when we, go back to record and have awesome guests like yourself. And, we always like to say, like, having this podcast is almost like a life hack, or it's like a cheat code, because we get to sit down with all these successful people like yourself and really listen and soak in all the knowledge that you guys have had over the years that we can now apply to our lives, and hopefully our listeners can also apply to their lives. And I think that's also so important when thinking about success, because like Anthony mentioned, almost every single person that we've had on this podcast has had a different answer to that. Some might say money, some might say happiness when it comes to family and different things. And even my definition of success has evolved over the past few years, which I feel like is so fascinating. But again, just to wrap this up, I feel like it's so awesome and so gratifying, really, to have awesome people like you making an impact, right? To go off what you're saying, your definition, I think you've been successful with accomplishing that, because you've impacted 2 people right here. I can tell you that in the short time that we've known you. And again, going back to all the things that we were saying about Pepe, what he had to say to you, and what Anthony had to say with Mr. Ramos at St. Brendan, it's been clear that you made an impact, and I'm sure your family can definitely attest to that as well. But just wanted to thank you again for coming on and making an impact here on the Mindset Podcast. But I'd like to say that you're part of the family now, so you're stuck with us. But yeah, man, just wanted to thank you again. Thank you for the knowledge. Thank you for coming on at 8:30 in the morning and sharing some of your experiences and taking some time out of your day. We do not take that for granted. So just wanted to appreciate that, and really from the bottom of our hearts, thank you for all that you're doing. And we look forward to all the success you have in the future. You're still such a young guy. You have so many things ahead of you, so many concerts still to go to.
Yeah.
It's true.
If,
I feel
Javi,
like you got
if you need anybody to join a band, you got 2 people right here. We can figure it
Great.
out.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
by the way, so you love the Dodgers, so your dog's name is Dodger because you love the Dodgers. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, I let my
Cool.
kids pick it. We thought of different names. We thought of Tally, Bowden, Knoll, all that stuff. But
Yeah.
but then Dodger, it's a perfect name for the dog because he's always
Yeah.
running around and stuff. He's a Wheaton Terrier. He's awesome. He's sleeping here right next to me. He loves the I got him for the kids, and he's my dog, guys. I don't know what to tell you, but no, look, I greatly appreciate this opportunity. If it makes a difference in one person, what you guys do, and I've listened to so many of the different podcasts that you've had, it's a wealth of knowledge, right? And everybody has a different answer. And I think that is good for people to understand as well, because it's about being true to what's important to you, right? And who you are. So, keep doing what you guys are doing. I'm here for you anytime, and appreciate the kudos from St. Brendan as well. They made an impact on me long before I had the opportunity to repay that. The same with Miami-Dade, the same with Florida State, the same with EY, the same with people in my life, and I think that's our responsibility, is to just, do good things for good people, make an impact every day whenever we get the opportunity.
Excellent.
So
thanks so much. Yeah, no, thank you. And last thing, where can our listeners find you if they want to follow you on social media or Instagram or LinkedIn?
Sure. So I think LinkedIn, it's just linkedin.com/Javi Borges, JAVI BORGES, is probably the best, and happy to connect with anybody at any time.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Javi.
Problem.
Appreciate your time.